And so it's Thursday night. Here I am sitting in my room sipping on a 40. And what better time, what better place to do a new list, this time of the 15 of my favorite best black metal albums of all time. Anyone who knows me personally knows I'm a huge fan of black metal. It is something that's one of my favorite genres. So, not to make this video over long, but let's go ahead and get into it. Number 15, Mayhem, De Mysteris Dom Satanis, The Secret Rites of Lord Satan. This is one of those classic titles. Most of these bands on here are back from the heyday of Norwegian black metal. It's my favorite era of black metal. You know, this album is just, it really was one of those albums that set the paradigm for what would be the standard in black metal. One of the first ever black metal bands ever formed. I'm not going to go into too much detail about these albums. This is just a list for if you are introductory to black metal. These are albums you should definitely check out. Definitely well worth it. This is a great one. Number 14, Cradle of Filth, Cruelty and the Beast. Now technically this would not fall under specifically the category of black metal. It would be more of gothic / black metal, but I love this album. It is one of my favorite albums of all time. It's become popular to really bash on Cradle of Filth, but this album showcases a lot of melody. The guitars do these twin melodies reminiscent to Iron Maiden, reminiscent to Judas Priest. The lyrics are spectacularly written. Danny is an amazing writer, and this album has what I consider the classic Cradle lineup, the core of what I love about Cradle of Filth. Nick Barker on the drums, Guy Empires on guitar, Stewart on the second guitar. Those three members really made up the core of what was a really classic Cradle of Filth sound. This is one of their best albums, Cruelty and the Beast. It's about Elizabeth Bathory. Great from start to finish. Check it out. Ulver, number 13, Ulver Nattens Madrigal. Another one of the Norwegian classics. Ulver. It's a well-known name for anybody that's a fan of black metal. This album is raw, gritty, but at the same time it's very beautiful and melodic in ways. So, check it out. 12, Borknagar, The Olden Domain. Now Borknagar later in their discography would kind of morph into a more progressive extreme metal sound, but this album is purely Viking / black metal. It is a wonderful album. Standout track of mine is The Winter Way. Garm on the vocals. Anybody who knows Garm knows he is a spectacular vocalist. Check it out. Number 11, Emperor, Anthems to the Walking at Dusk. Emperor is one of the most talented black metal bands They're probably the first to do the style of symphonic black metal. This album is very melodic, but at the same time it's rough. You really have to listen closely. You have to have a trained ear to hear, because the production is very lo-fi, but at the same time you've got these amazing keyboards in the background, lush atmosphere, raw, brutal, unrelenting Emperor anthems to the Welkin. Number 10, Dimmu Borgir with Stormblast. There's a couple of Dimmu albums I could have chosen on this list, either this or Enthroned Darkness Triumphant. I chose this one because it's more of a classic black metal sound. It's very lo-fi. The keyboards are not as overbearing, and it's very, very beautiful, beautifully atmospheric. Dimmu Borgir, Stormblast, wonderful. Number 9, Dissection, Storm of the Light's Bane. This is one fucking hell of an album, a great album. Melodic black metal. It kind of has a feel of a little bit of mellow death in there. Can't really say much more about it. If you really want to know what it sounds like, go check it out. If you are remotely a fan of melodic black metal, you will love this album. Number 8, Burzum, Philosophim. Burzum, what can you say about Burzum? Varg, that church-burning, murdering, musical genius that he is. This is a great album. The only weak point on this album is the ambient piece. It's too long in my opinion. 25 minutes of repetitive ambient synth. I can do without that. Otherwise, this album's amazing. He recorded the vocals into a headphone mic, so the vocals are highly distorted. The production is about as lo-fi and fuzzy as you can get. Lyrics are great. The music creates a very, very good atmosphere. Burzum, Philosophim. Number 7, Dark Throne with Transylvanian Hunger. Now, I had a hard time deciding which of the Dark Throne albums to put here. I could have went with Under a Funeral Moon, or holy fuck, the other album title escapes me. A Blaze in the Northern Sky. Transylvanian Hunger is really the paradigm for raw, minimalist black metal. It's very repetitive. The production is very, very lo-fi, but it creates this cold, icy, really thin sounding atmosphere, really raw, really shrieky vocals. Classic album from a very classic band. Go listen to it if you don't believe me. Number 6, Satyricon, Dark Medieval Times. This album, the one thing you can use to describe this album is cold. This album is the production is so thin and trebled out. It's just very cold, very dark. The vocals are very, very well done, very fierce. Good album. Some of the later releases I didn't like that much, but this album is classic. If you want to get into black metal, if you are not a black metal fan and you are curious, this is one of the first albums you should check out. Number 5, Over, Bergtatt. This is one of the first albums I ever heard. Garm, of course, would also go on to be vocalist in one of my favorite avant-garde bands, Arcturus, but nevertheless, this is a band, and this is an album that both has, you know, classic raw lo-fi black metal sound mixed with very melodic, clean vocals, as well as the traditional shrieked vocals. It's a 5-chapter story. If you look up the lyric translations, it's very well written, a very classic album. It tops a lot of people's lists for black metal. Wonderful album. Number 4, Cradle of Filth, Vampire. Technically this isn't a full length, it's an EP. The second in Cradle of Filth's catalog. And this album is their most black metal, in my opinion, of all the albums they've released. It showcases their shining moment, the best track they ever wrote, in my opinion, Queen of Winter Throne. The guitars are so melodic, they're so fierce at the same time. The instrumentation is so tight, the production is not raw as in what you would hear in traditional most black metal. The production is very clean, but not too polished. Every instrument is well represented. The bass, the guitar, the keyboard, and the vocals are all perfectly produced, perfectly written, perfectly executed. The lyrics are stellar lyrics. Number 3, Drudka, Autumn Aurora. Wow. Simply an amazing album. A complete masterpiece. Atmospheric, ambient black metal. It puts you right in the middle of the woods in autumn. You feel like this album takes you to a journey through the last days of autumn leading into winter. The drums are one of my favorite parts of this album. They don't just merely blast beat in the background, they do great little creative fills here and there. The keyboard is perfectly placed. It has the perfect production, not too raw but not too polished. The guitars are very fuzzy and rough around the edges, but you can still hear what's going on with them. And it creates a very natural atmosphere. It makes you think of nothing but nature in the fall time, and it crafts that atmosphere to a T perfectly. Number 2, Emperor in the Nightside Eclipse. Blown away. That's all I can say about this album. Completely blown away from the first time I even heard it. You know, these are hymns of the night, of winter. The cover art is beautiful for this album. The keyboards are so good. They accent this album so well. The guitars are so, unlike most black metal, they have more going on with the guitars and not just repetitive tremolo riffing. It's has a complexity to it, has a little bit of a progressiveness to it, if you want to call it that. Isan is one of the best at shrieked vocals, one of the best emotionally. Emperor writes some of the best lyrics. Towards the Pantheon, Cosmic Keys to My Creation and Times. These songs are just groundbreaking. This was a groundbreaking landmark release in black metal. A complete classic. If you are a black metal fan, this should be somewhere in your collection. Whether if you just download albums, you should have it on your computer, or if you are into having the physical copy, you should definitely own this. If you're a black metal fan, you haven't heard this, you really are missing out. Number one, my favorite, a lot of people's favorite when it comes to black metal, Burzum vis licit taros. Translation: If the Light Takes Us. This album is transcendent. This album is atmospheric. This album is ambient. This album is dark. You know, the synth in this album is so minimalist, but it is so appropriate. This album is pure magic. It's so lo-fi production, so repetitive, it's hypnotic, and it sucks you completely in. This is one of those albums that you either get it or you don't. And if you don't get it, you will probably despise it. You'll probably hate it. Ooh, the dirty production, yuck, it's too repetitive, I can't even with this. But if you really soak it in, if you really allow this album, close your eyes and allow this album to create an atmosphere for you, it's the perfect album. I go to sleep to it many times in a year. I listen to it so much. You know, the very first track on it is my favorite track on it. That's Sippin Gang Var. What once was in English is what it translated to. You really got to read the lyrics. You know, you really got to read the translation to these lyrics. It is so good, you guys. It is such a good album. If you have not heard it, oh my God, please, if you're a black metal fan and you have not heard this album, or if you are interested in black metal, start right here. This album, Burzum vis licit taros. That's it. Toast to the metal fans out there. Night, you guys.